Okay, folks, so this is the continuation of section 8.6, and this is going to be the cosine parent graph, the cosine parent graph. We're going to go about this exactly the same way that we did the sine graph. If you have not watched the sine graph yet, go back and watch that one first, because I'm not going to go through the same preliminary material that I went through for that. So you'll notice I still have my same XY chart. Now our focus is going to be on the cosine values around the unit circle. So as I look at my coordinates, I'm only going to be looking at the X values as I move around the unit circle. Once again, please notice that at the bottom of the first column it says 2 pi. It should just say pi. So make sure you fix that before doing anything. All right, so here we go around the unit circle. I start out at the position 0. The cosine of 0, or the X value at 0, is 1. The X value, or the cosine value, at pi over 6 is a long leg, so root 3 over 2. The cosine value at pi over 4, root 2 over 2. Cosine value at pi over 3, this is a short leg, so it's a 1/2. Now we go into the second quadrant. Of course, let's go up to the top. Cosine of pi over 2, or the X value at pi over 2, is 0. The X value at 2 pi over 3 in the second quadrant now is negative. It's going to the left. It's going to be negative 1/2. The cosine at 3 pi over 4 is to the left, so negative root 2 over 2. At 5 pi over 6, the X value is a long leg, so negative root 3 over 2. And at pi, it's negative 1. Into the third quadrant, the X value at 7 pi over 6 is long, still going to the left, so negative root 3 over 2. 5 pi over 4, negative root 2 over 2. 4 pi over 3, short leg, so negative 1/2. And down at the bottom, there is no right or left, so it's 0. Fourth quadrant, the cosine at 5 pi over 3. Now we're going to the right, so it's positive again, positive 1/2. Cosine of 7 pi over 4, positive root 2 over 2. Cosine of 11 pi over 6, positive root 3 over 2. And then back to the beginning, cosine of 2 pi is 1. So again, I have the same XY axis. In fact, it's just copy and pasted from what we did on the sine graph. Same y-axis where I'm going up 10 blocks to get to 1 and down 10 blocks to get to negative 1. Remember what we found on the sine graph, that root 3 over 2 is the same thing as 0.8660. Root 2 over 2 is 0.7071. And of course, 1/2 is 0.5. So we're ready then to draw our coordinates. My first coordinate is the coordinate 0, 1. So I'm all the way up at the top, up 10 blocks. At pi over 6, 0.8660, we'll call that 8.5 blocks. So 3, 6, 7, 8.5 blocks. At pi over 4, we'll do 7 blocks. At pi over 3, we'll go up 5 blocks. At pi over 2, we're on the x-axis. Second quadrant. At 2 pi over 3 now, we're down below, so we're down 5 blocks. 3 pi over 4, down 7 blocks. 5 pi over 6, down 8.5 blocks. And then at pi, we're down 10 blocks. We're just down as low as we can get. Into the third quadrant. At 7 pi over 6, we've got 8.5 blocks. At 5 pi over 4, 7 blocks. 4 pi over 3, 5 blocks. Back to the x-axis for 3 pi over 2. Now, I apologize, and this is really unfair. I forgot that my XY chart is going to run into my graph. So I'm going to move that down. I am so sorry. That's easier to do on the iPad than it is on paper. Forgive me about that. All right, so we're into the fourth quadrant now. At 5 pi over 3, we're going up 5 blocks. 7 pi over 4, 7 blocks. 11 pi over 6, 8.5 blocks. And then 2 pi, we're up 10 blocks. And you see once again that I have another wave. And that is your cosine parent. The other parents will be in section 8.7, so stay tuned for some videos on the rest of the parents.